Hey, what's going on? It is I, Timmésha Burgess. So listen, let me jump right into it because I said I was going to try to do better with doing shorter videos, right? Some time ago, I released a video saying that many of the problems that exist in the world is our fault as women. And I explained that it's our fault as women because we are the womb bearers, meaning we are the ones who get to bring life from the spiritual world into the physical world through our bodies and out of our vaginas, right? With the help of our male counterparts who plant their beautiful seeds into our rich, dark soils when we decide that we want that to happen. The problem is, ladies, that many of the humans that are here are only here because we push them out of our vaginas. The only reason why we push them out of our vaginas is because some of us had sex with somebody. You know what I mean? Like, can you think about that for a minute? The reason many of us are here are only because our parents had sex. Not necessarily because they planned it, not because they were prepared mentally, financially, emotionally, spiritually, but because they just had sex. It's like, oh, I'm pregnant. I guess I better go on and do what I gotta do. You know, what I'm saying is, ladies, it's our fault as women because we get to decide if we are ready mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually to bring humans from the spiritual world to the physical world through our bodies. We get to decide this based on our reproductive health, based on our reproductive choices. We get to decide this these days. We don't have to do it like our grandparents or great-great-grandparents did it, right? There was no reproductive health or services available to them, right? Once they found themselves pregnant, they went on and brought it forth, but not because they were necessarily ready. It just so happened that it happened. And if there were services available to them, they most likely couldn't afford it. You know what I mean? There was no contraceptive care in place when our great-great-grandparents, were here. Okay, so we have that availability now through the help of technology, through the help of, evolution of our minds and our ways of being. When you know better, you do better. When you have better resources at your disposal, you do better. You put contraceptives in place to where you can prevent unwanted pregnancy or unplanned pregnancy. And in the case that it does happen, I am a firm believer in pro-choice. You already know. If you've been following me and rocking with me for some time, you already know I am pro-choice, right? And I explain why I am in my book, Activate, Unorthodox Philosophies that explore anxiety, depression, and suicidal thoughts as symptoms of suppressed superpower. Go ahead and get your copy if you haven't yet. It's available in paperback and ebook on Amazon. Here's what I want to dive into as it relates to it being our fault, ladies, right? We look around, we see the type of people that exist on the planet, and we wonder why ain't shit people exist. And my response is because we keep giving birth to them, right? Ladies, sleeping with ain't shit men, replicating their DNA, creating more ain't shit folks. And I ain't saying your kids ain't shit. Well, I ain't saying it, right? But what I'm saying is there's such a thing as replicating DNA. Obviously, this is how this works, okay? And I say it's our fault as women because we need to be more conscious with how we guide our reproduction. Now, think about this for an instance. Just walk with me for a minute. Replicating DNA. Maybe you found yourself on the precipice of an unwanted or unplanned pregnancy. You had sex with a Tyrone. You got pregnant. Well, I'm going to say you got pregnant. Y'all got pregnant. I don't know why we just put it on ourselves like, oh, the woman got pregnant like she did it all by herself. Y'all got pregnant, but it was unplanned, unwanted. You maybe you were just with Tyrone because you just wanted to be with Tyrone. You know Tyrone ain't shit. You know he had the devil dick. You know the devil dick, right? Where it's good, but they ain't good. And so you're replicating their DNA. You wonder what's wrong with what's wrong with little Tyrone? What's wrong with little Tay-Tay? Okay? Well, look at the father. And maybe there's some things, ladies, in our DNA and our bloodline that we haven't necessarily done the work on to heal within ourselves. And we wonder what's going on. Ladies, it's not just replicating the ain't shit male DNA, our DNA too. How many mothers are out there right now that are out there that were not mentally prepared to have children? Toxic, narcissistic mothers, toxic, narcissistic parents. Ladies, it's work that needs to happen on the inside of us as well before we decide to give birth and bring children to the world. So let's go a little bit further, right? So you have your child, okay? You bring your child into the world and you realize that they're going through some things. They got all these things to work through. You don't know what's going on with them mentally. You don't know what's going on with them emotionally. They're acting out in school. Whatever the case is, you got to start doing that work on the DNA. And really, it's not your work to do. It's that child's work to do. When we are not prepared bringing children into the world, when we're not prepared mentally, emotionally, we are birthing them into toxic environments, financially unstable environments, mentally, financially, emotionally, okay? Do you know how much pressure we put on that child when they come into this world? We leave them with the responsibility of having to break off those generational curses, right? So their father Tyrone, and no offense to the Tyrones, I'm just using names for an example. Their father Tyrone had issues with, I don't know, addiction, okay? Had issues with addiction. I'm going to share something personal. My biological father struggled with drug addiction. So bad, I mean to the point where he was stealing money from my mother. Okay, I'm putting it out there. You know, mama get paid. Woman come home. She get paid a little bit check. She got 4 kids. She look in her purse, a paycheck gone because my father stole it. Why? Because he went out there going to get his fix, going to get his high. Okay, I'm talking about stealing the AC unit out of the window, going to sell it. I'm talking about taking the hubcaps and tires and shit off the car to go and sell it to go and get his fix. I mean, that level, okay? Replicating that DNA. For me, for the longest time, I never did drugs, but I was very, very dependent on cannabis for a minute. Very, very dependent on cannabis. And I ain't saying nothing wrong with cannabis. I would love to partake of cannabis, but in my profession these days, I'm unable to partake of it like I'd like to. But, and I'm not saying, you know, there's anything wrong with cannabis. I support cannabis. I invest in cannabis. You already know, read my article. It's on LinkedIn. It's called Why I Decided to Invest in Cannabis Gold. So I still would, if it weren't for my professions, I still absolutely would. But I found that I had developed a dependency to it, an addiction to it. And it was very, very difficult for me to pull away from. And it wasn't like I was really trying to pull away. At the time I was taking cannabis, I wasn't really trying hard to pull away, but I remember feeling like I wanted it every day, several times a day. Granted, I was going through a lot of things in my life at the time, and cannabis just kind of helped take the edge off. I ain't gonna front, right? But I found that I was depending on it as opposed to just wanting, as opposed to just enjoying it. I would feel some kind of way, feeling down, feeling, oh God, shit's going on in my life. Let me smoke some weed. Let me roll up one. Let me, whatever the case. And I remember my father and just kind of understanding how he had this in his DNA, in his blood, had this addicting personality where it's easy for him to get addicted to things. And this kind of DNA carry over. I'm his only child, as far as we know. And that same addicting type of thing carried over in my DNA, which made it difficult for me to pull away from cannabis. And I looked at that and I said, I can see how it was so difficult for my father, biological father, to pull away, because certain things can have a hold on you when you are not mentally strong. Okay. That's just an example that I want to give, but we put all of this pressure on the children of today to break these generational cycles when we birthed them into toxicity, when we birthed them into environments that were not equipped for them to be born into. Yes, ladies. Yes. It's our fault because we have the power to choose if this is the right environment to bring this child into. And when we haven't consciously made that decision, when we aren't prepared mentally, financially, emotionally, spiritually, and we give birth, right? Because let me tell you something. We have narcissistic and manipulative parents that exist. It does. We all know this. This is no secret. We all know this. And these are parents who haven't done the work on or in themselves, giving birth to more children who won't even know what it means to do work on and in yourself, because they look at their toxic parents and manipulative parents and narcissistic parents and they think this is normal. And so they carry that in their bloodline and they go on to have kids and their kids go on to have kids, and they're all looking at this toxic example as a norm when it's not the norm. What I'm saying is we put the pressure on our kids to have to break that generational cycle and stuff off of them. If they are lucky enough to come into the knowledge of self, that this is even possible. If they are lucky enough to come into the knowledge that this is a generational cycle that can be broken. It could be broken if you do the inner dark shadow work on yourself. When we haven't equipped them, when we haven't equipped ourselves first, we haven't activated and risen up within ourselves first, we put this pressure on our children of today to do all the work to break the generational cycles we didn't do, or that our ancestors didn't do, or that our grandparents didn't do, or that our great-great-grandparents didn't do. All of that shit trickles down through bloodlines, and we put all of that heavy burden and responsibility on the children that are coming here to do all the work that we refuse to do in ourselves. That is why it is our fault as women, because we have the power to choose. That's all I'm saying. It's highly imperative that we guide our reproduction these days, ladies. Why do you think there's so many women choosing not to have children these days? They know that they're not ready. They know that they're not prepared mentally, or they just don't want any. Okay? They just choose not to. There are so many people who are choosing not to, and there are people who blame them and say, oh, they're selfish. No, you are the selfish son of a gun who's bringing more children to the planet when we already got so many here that we really need to focus on. Just because you got married to somebody doesn't automatically, it's not, that whole saying, here comes love, here comes marriage, then comes the baby and the baby carriage is bullshit. Just because you found love or created love, or some people get married and not even in love, they get married for business reasons. I get it. I ain't hating on that. Okay. But just because you come into union with somebody doesn't necessarily mean you have to bring a human to the planet. Oh, now that you're married, now you need to have kids. That has been the biggest lie that we have been told. Oh, now that you're married, now it's time for you to have kids and bring more humans to the planet. Well, we haven't even taken care of the ones we got. Do you know how many children are in foster care right now? Are in the hands of the state? Children who have been abandoned? You want to bring more? Deal with the ones that are already here. How about that? Deal with yourself first before you decide to bring more humans out of your body to the planet. Work on yourself and stop birthing children into toxic environments that are not equipped for them mentally, emotionally, financially. Now you're not even ready yourself. Parents, stop telling your children once they're married, they should have more children just because they're married. That's not how this shit goes. People don't get married just to have kids. That's not what marriage was even created to do. That's not even what it's for. Every married person doesn't want to bring a human child to the planet. Maybe they just want a dog. I think that's a good idea for some of us. So, in thinking about bringing children to the planet, are you equipped energetically, right? Will you be putting the burden on them to have to break generational curses and cycles to do the work that you didn't do first? If you've done the work in yourself and you know that you're guided to bring human to the planet, then good. Have at it. Go ahead, honey. Go on, honey. Take a chance, right? But if you haven't, don't just do it just because society has taught you that that's what you do. That's not all our vaginas are created to do. We can birth more than just children. We ought to be using the power of our vaginas to save the world. It's a lot of work to do out here. Let's deal with the humans that are already here, because we haven't done quite well with the ones that are already here. We haven't done a good job with the ones that are here. Let's focus on what we got before we go asking. It's like you got a whole bunch of desserts and cakes and you got a whole bunch of stuff and you're asking more of that same stuff. Deal with what you got first. Get that in order first. Let's get in order what we already have created and given birth to first before we go creating and asking for more. That's my message for today. Obviously, what I say resonates with you on a deeper level, and I'm glad to know it, or else you wouldn't be here. For those of you who haven't subscribed yet, what the hell are you waiting for? Go ahead and hit that subscribe button, like, share, and comment down below on this video. Get your copy of Activate, Unorthodox Philosophies that explore anxiety, depression, and suicidal thoughts as symptoms of suppressed superpower. Ooh, let me calm down because my energy and my fire was up. I was feeling like that. Get you some merch as well. Fear of feminine power is a mental disorder. And also, in relation to this video, there's some new merch. It's called Pussy Power, P-O-O-S-E, Power. Listen, we can do more with the spirit of our yawnies, of our vaginas. We can do so much more with it. And Pussy Power, P-O-O-S-E, is redefining that meaning. I want you to take a look at the merch. Look at the meaning of it. Read it. Get your merch. You can click the link in my bio. It'll guide you to my link tree. You can click on, in my link tree, there are 4 different options. You can click on ALCHEMINITY merch. And to get your book, there's an Amazon link in there that'll take you to Amazon for a paperback and ebook. I'll see y'all in the next cast for now. Oh my God, this is supposed to be like 8 minutes, been 15 minutes. I'll see y'all. Ciao.